Mysterious events are happening among us all the time, and lucky for us, some of them are caught on camera. Number 10. Biker near miss. You think winter roads are bad, and you've probably never ridden your bike here. This incident occurred in India in 2018. The uploader explains that it was his third day of riding from Indore to Pangong Lake, and he had just partnered with another rider who joined him on his solo trip. He writes that the pass was slippery that day and was loaded with trucks. The result is a close call his friend met with, which he caught on camera. The footage shows the pair of bikers on a narrow mountain road with nothing but a cliff edge and a 100+ foot fall to their right. In front of them is a truck transporting heavy metal poles. As they follow quite closely behind this truck, it looks as though his friend is going to attempt to overtake the vehicle on the cliffside with little to no shoulder, but that attempt comes to a quick end when his heavy bike with all his belongings piled onto the back loses traction on the slushy ground. It falls onto its side dangerously near the cliff edge. If he'd been even a foot nearer the edge, he would have been a goner. As fate would have it, his life was spared that day, and as Banda writes, hopefully this teaches other riders to ride safe, live long. Number 9. The swallowing sidewalk. Don't you hate it when you're waiting for a bus and the sidewalk swallows you up? Published in October of 2020, this is exactly what happened to a New York City man who is minding his own business. The man is seen in the video walking along the sidewalk and stopping to wait beside a building. As he steps forward, the sidewalk behind collapses, taking his back foot and then the rest of him. The horrifying incident was caught on camera as the man fell into a pile of rats. According to his family, the man didn't want to speak as he was scared rats would find their way into his mouth. Luckily, plenty of people saw the incident and called the fire department. The man spent nearly a half hour down there before he was rescued by firefighters. Just imagine an entire half hour being swarmed by rats. But the question remains, why did this happen? It wasn't a sinkhole as some may speculate. The sidewalk was simply in disrepair and was located above a basement, according to the Department of Buildings. Surprisingly, this isn't even that rare of an occurrence in New York, as dozens of sidewalk collapses have been reported since July of 2019, according to the New York Times. As for the rats, well, the rat population in New York City is about a quarter of the human population, making it one of the most rat-infested cities in the world. But at least the humans still outnumber the rats, for now. Number 8. Haunted stream. This incident shows that even streamers' homes can be haunted. Twitch streamer Justa Minx is chatting with her fellow influencers, Aviva Sophia and Nico Lull, when in the midst of discussion, the wheelchair in the corner behind her moves unexpectedly. Nico Lull is the first to notice, while Aviva Sophia confirms that she saw it move too. Justa Minx denies that it moved, but it was behind her, so she couldn't have seen it. A second clip reveals further proof that Justa Minx's home is haunted. As she's talking about TikTok with her followers, a distinct silhouette flashes into view on the right. This time she sees it out of the corner of her eye. She asks her viewers if they saw it too. Many in the comments think it's a black cat, but can a cat move a wheelchair? One strange happening is enough, 2 is too much to explain away. Number 7. Forest Girl. Beware of where the Randonautica app may lead. Published to TikTok by Haley AIG in August of 2020. The app led this unfortunate group into a forest, and they weren't alone. Haley explains that the app took them to a park in the middle of nowhere. As the camera pans around, she notes that they've only seen trees so far, but they seem to have missed this figure poking its head out from behind one of those trees. As they wander across a wooden bridge, this forlorn dark-haired figure dressed in black crosses the path at the end of a dirt road. The girls wander on, and all you can see is the ground for a moment as they wonder if they're being followed, and then it's clear that they are. While many TikTokers are loving this, Austin Payton writes, "I may or may not have fallen off of my bed," while others claim that their souls left their bodies and they threw their phones across the room. Haley writes, "I deleted the Randonautica app after. That's probably for the best." Number 6. The Crevice. Titled, "The Day I Fell in a Crevice." The title of this scary video gets right down to it. Published in June of 2020, Edward Bozen was skiing around Mont Blanc Massif when his group, in his own words, made many mistakes. 3 of those mistakes, which he outlines, include splitting the group, not analyzing the terrain or regrouping at secure points, and lastly, stopping on the crevice with the exposed snow to wait for his friend, who was carving the mountain with too much speed. The snow took him, causing the drop into the crevice. This video shows that very moment as Edward flies down the mountain and is then seen waiting for a moment. His friend's snow piles up. Edward then hits the crevice, falling into an avalanche of snow. Deep under the snow, Edward only has a small glimpse of the sky above. His friend soon appears in that speck of sky. He reaches down with his ski poles to try and pull his friend up. After a while, Edward takes off his skis and hands them up to his friend before painstakingly climbing out of the snow-piled crevice. And perhaps the most thrilling part of the entire ordeal, he is then rescued by helicopter. YouTuber Brander CJ Corbin writes, "Imagine falling all the way down in such an enclosed space. He managed to stop himself before he went too deep. It could have been much worse. I couldn't imagine how terrifying it must have been waiting for help in that crevice." Edward notes that he didn't make it out of this event unscathed. These places are serious and don't always give you a second chance. Number 5. Running with scissors. Well, this Boston barber wasn't necessarily running. This incident with his own work tools led to the need for open heart medical attention. Steve Silva is seen in the security footage talking with a customer and then circling the barber chair. In doing so, he trips and falls forward right onto his hair-cutting shears. Silva's 2 colleagues quickly come to his aid. As Silva attempts to lift himself onto his knees, one of the colleagues appears to race off to call emergency services. The video later shows paramedics arriving on scene to take Silva away. According to a GoFundMe campaign for Silva's healthcare costs, at the time of posting, they were struggling to keep him stable. While the chance of such a thing happening is 1 in a million, Silva is lucky the scissors didn't take his life. Number 4. Ground breaks. Ruptured asphalt, a volcano of water, mud flooding an entire street. That's what happened in Ukraine's capital of Kiev in May of 2017, published by KVN. This incident occurred due to a 2-meter wide pipe breaking while work was being done on a water canal. The footage shows the very moment the volcano breaks through the asphalt, toppling over garbage cans and gently nudging the cars in its path out of the way. Another camera angle captures just how high the mud reached. According to reports, the mud slushy hit all the way up to the 7th floor of a building. Miraculously, no one was harmed in the event, but some of these cars definitely needed a few runs through the car wash. Number 3. Mysterious figure. When a New York man's dog kept barking all night for no apparent reason, the dog's owner set out to investigate. He set up a CCTV camera to see if there was a reason behind his dog's behavior, and what he discovered explained everything. Posted to Reddit by UJ Hood, his friend's CCTV captured a figure shortly after 11 p.m. On January 29, 2017, the figure appears to be carrying a flashlight, hurrying across the snow. What is so unusual about this capture is that, although the figure is walking upright on 2 feet, it isn't clear whether it's human or not. To further the mystery, the obscure being disappears halfway across the yard, although the flashlight continues to bop up and down against what may be a fence. The footage has some wondering whether the mysterious disappearance of the figure was simply a camera trick of blur and fade, a shadowy illusion, or something more sinister. Those leaning towards the latter note the figure's glowing eyes, strange spindly form, and weird movements. One user said that there's something strange going on, like why the background never gets obstructed after the figure passes by. Others suggest to follow the tracks, if there are any. What do you think this is? Whatever it is, it makes no sense. Number 2, Egyptian statue. Perhaps the film night at the museum wasn't too far off. This statue, located in England's Manchester Museum, appears to come to life. The ancient Egyptian statue dates back to around 1800 BC and perhaps is cursed by an ancient Egyptian spell. According to the museum's curator, Campbell Price, one day he noticed the 10-inch statue had turned entirely around. As reported by Manchester Evening News, Price said, "I thought it was strange because it is in a case, and I'm the only one who has a key. When Price moved it back to its original position, he found it had moved again the very next day. He decided the next step was to set up a time-lapse video, but the video raised more questions than it answered, as the statue was caught red-handed rotating counterclockwise on its own by increments that wouldn't appear visible to the human eye. This occurs only during the daytime. The statue is still at night. While an Egyptian spell isn't off the table, one British physicist thinks the movement can be explained by something called differential friction. Brian Cox says this friction is caused by the footsteps of museum goers, whose vibration moves the statue during the day. Price, however, calls this into question, as the statue has been housed at the museum since the early 20th century, and it hasn't moved before. It also appears to be turning in a perfect circle and only up to 180 degrees, so that it's facing backward. Even more interesting, on the rear of the statue is an inscription requesting offerings of bread, oxen, and fowl. Perhaps this is the answer. The statue needs to be go down train. It's not often you see two trains so close on the same track, occurring near Smith Falls in Ontario, Canada in 1992. The footage shows a passenger train that needed to hit the emergency brakes while en route to Toronto. The passenger train appears to be traveling at a fairly fast speed when a stationary freight train comes into view down the track. As the commuter has little time to slow, the engineer stumbles out of the locomotive cab. In the meantime, the freighter backs up slowly while the commuter train has managed to brake hard enough to come to a complete stop right in the nick of time. The approach left no more than 6 feet between the locomotives, a close call that makes little to no sense as to why or how it happened.